Request all of you to please settle down. I request all of you to please switch off your mobile phones or keep them on the silent mode if they're very urgently required. May I request all our dignitaries to please take their seat on the dais? I request Mr. Vipin Tyagi, Executive Director, CDOT, to escort our dignitaries onto the dais. Distinguished guests and dignitaries from the government, industry, academia, R&D, telecom fraternity, media, ladies and gentlemen, namaskar and a very good morning to all of you. At the very outset of this momentous occasion, let me recall the historic announcement by the Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi ji, of building 100 smart cities in the nation. Hailed as one of the greatest ever urban reforms in the country, Smart Cities mission has indeed become a buzzword. International Telecommunications Union, ITU, rightly defines a smart city as an innovative city that uses information and communication technologies, that is ICT, and other means to improve quality of life, efficiency of urban operations, services, and competitiveness while ensuring that it meets the needs of the present and the future generations with respect to economic, social, and environmental aspects. ICT, and more specifically Internet of Things and machine-to-machine communications, have emerged as the key pillars in realizing the overarching objectives of making our cities smart and sustainable. It necessitates the creation of a reliable and robust communications infrastructure, with a host of innovative applications to address the local issues and challenges in a fast, sustainable, and efficacious manner. This offers a great deal of opportunity to industry, MSMEs, and startups. A standards-driven approach will act as a catalyst for solution developers who will further reap the dividends of wider interoperability. It is with this earnest endeavor of creating awareness about the myriad benefits of adoption of telecom standards that the internationally renowned European Telecommunications Standards Institute, ETSI, and Telecommunications Standards Development Society India, TSDSI, have joined hands for this very pertinent collaborative project on ICT standardization. Under this European Union-funded project as part of the India-EU cooperation, ETSI and TSDSI, in association with Center for Development of Telematics, CDOT, the premier telecom R&D center of the Government of India, are organizing a one-day workshop on future-proof smart cities with a common service layer, a standards-driven approach. We are privileged to have the esteemed presence of veterans and experts from different parts of the world, representing the government, R&D, academia, telecom fraternity, and urban local bodies who will be sharing their enriching knowledge and experiences with us. We are also graced by the presence of municipal councillors from Europe and Korea who have been executing the Smart City project in their respective cities. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of ETSI, TSDSI, and CDOT, we once again welcome all our distinguished guests and dignitaries to this very engaging workshop on ICT standardization for smart cities. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very unique tradition of welcoming our guests with the potted saplings and the traditional Angavastram. May I request Mr. Vipin Tyagi, Executive Director, CDOT, to welcome His Excellency Mr. Cesare Onestini, Deputy Head of Delegation of the European Union to India. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming His Excellency Mr. Cesare Onestini, Deputy Head of Delegation of the European Union to India. May I request Mr. Jayant Bhatnagar, Director CDOT, to welcome Shri N. Sivasalam, Additional Secretary, Department of Telecommunications, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Shri N. Sivasalam, Additional Secretary, Department of Telecommunications, Government of India. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request Mr. Sondra Kumar M., Director CDOT, to welcome Mr. Luis Jorge Romero, Director General, European Telecommunications Standards Institute, with a potted sapling and a traditional Angavastram. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Mr. Luis Jorge Romero, Director General, European Telecommunications Standards Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, may I now request Mr. Praveen Mathur, Director CDOT, to welcome Shri Babu Narayanan, Vice Chairman, TSTSI. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming Shri Babu Narayanan, Vice Chairman, TSTSI. Ladies and gentlemen, we once again extend a very hearty welcome to all our distinguished guests and dignitaries. It is a defining ritual in our country to invoke the blessings of the Almighty at the auspicious start of an occasion, to steer us through the path of darkness and ignorance to the whole new world of wisdom and enlightenment. May I please request Mr. Vipin Tyagi, Executive Director CDOT, to please accompany all our guests on the dais for the lamp lighting ceremony.
सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा प्रथमेश्वरा गणधीश्वरा चिन्तामणि परमेश्वरा वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा प्रथमेश्वरा गणधीश्वरा चिन्तामणि परमेश्वरा गणनाथ.
Let's offer our prayers to the God of light to always keep us treading on the continuous path of prosperity and development. May God give us strength and courage to surmount all hurdles that impede our path to enlightenment. Ladies and gentlemen, we have in the midst of us Mr. Vipin Tyagi, who is currently serving as the Executive Director, CDOT. He has been an innovative business leader from ICT industry for over 3 decades. He has developed global business through companies in India, Japan, Australia, United States of America, and Europe. He has actively worked towards research and development of large systems, organizational development, and creation of high-performance teams. In October 2009, he decided to promote national R&D and joined CDOT as director. As mentioned earlier, he is now serving the organization as the executive director. He has worked on world's first VOD system, India's first indigenous GPON development, CDOT exchanges, and indigenous message switching system. He has been involved in the development of over 35 products in the area of enterprise and telecommunications industry. Sir, may I please request you for the welcome address and introduction to the workshop.
Good morning, everybody. I'm extremely delighted to have such a galaxy of very, very important persons in the technology domain here, present here, and profusely thank you for showing up and supporting this wonderful conference that we have uniquely identified and positioned here in India. I am having a proud privilege to welcome everybody, especially His Excellency Mr. Cesare Onestini, Mr. Sivasalam, Luis Jorge Romero, and Mr. Babu Narayan. Finally, I got some names right. Today's conference is actually a milestone in the standardization, at least from the perspective of India, because what we are going to talk about today is that what is the right way of actually putting information system in smart cities. And just to start, I want to bring that we have international leaders of these smart cities here talking to us, and we will actually enable this whole process of standardization and adoption, more importantly, in India. So what is happening is that why there is so much of excitement all around about M2M or IoT, the cyberspace is getting intermingled with the physical world, and the digital information dependent infrastructure, I call it DD, is actually key to smart city now. Worldwide Internet of Things market is poised to be about $328 billion by 2020. The IoT market in India is going to be poised to about $15 billion by 2020. This is as per the NESCOM estimate. More than that, as you see, the software is going to play a major role in all these realizations. Consequently, India becomes a very, very important partner. But the hardware design, products, and networking and integration, for all of those, there is an opportunity. Second, thing is that the networks are, the new networks are getting laid, and these networks are getting upgraded. We have also seen that there is a divorce of the traffic and the charging. And there is an urgent need for all of us to think how we are going to monetize next generation services. You just can't do it the way it is happening for these apps which are currently going on, because there is no way for anybody to define services apart from some few players. That's why it is important to put a standard-driven approach for monetization of telecommunication. Second thing which comes out very clearly, that the Europe, Asia Pacific, and US are going to play almost equal role in terms of the revenue generation through the IoT. As per the IDATE data, about 40 billion in 2017, equally divided in all three regions, approximately, and Asia Pacific being significantly faster growing. It is important that we adopt these standards here and we make those available. Because the current services are going to evolve to another level. We will have services which are more and more demanding. So what's happening on telecommunication? Access side is getting ready now. We have Wi-Fi, which goes with 802.11 AC standard, goes to 1.7 Gbps and 1.3 as wave 1. There are a lot of commercial available systems which will give you the broadband connectivity. At the same time, you have 5G goals defined where they're talking about 1 lakh devices per square kilometer to be supported. 1 gigabit connectivity when somebody is stationary and 100 Mbps when he moves. Also, there is a latency definition which says that it has to be fast enough in terms of turnaround. So the technologies are evolving and access is getting ready. Fiber on the other side is leading the way, where we are now having access which is 10 gigabit symmetrical, because a lot of data is getting originated from the smartphones, and the uploads and downloads, differential is actually coming down. Consequently, we have two standards, XGS-PON and NG-PON. XGS-PON will give you 10 gigabit downlink and 10 gigabit uplink, and NG-PON 2 will give you 40/40 at this point in time. Evolution continues. The point that I'm making is that access network is actually getting ready, but what is happening to the security aspect, what is happening to the vendor unlocking is equally important thing. Extensibility of the living and changing society, whatever information system we put, it has to be extensible. It means you should be able to add and change and expand all the services and evolve those services to new level. Affordable, it has to be very, very affordable, especially in context of India. If it is not made in India, digital India is very likely very unlikely to actually succeed, because the price point innovation is very important here. Favorable for, the infrastructure also has to, it is a public infrastructure. The differentiation between IT system which get deployed inside the corporation and something that get deployed in public is actually much different from the perspective of how you look at security, how you look at the measurements, how you look at the deployments, because it has to be transparent infrastructure which everybody, including security agencies, can use it. Monetization is very, very important aspect, because eventually if you put so much of infrastructure and investment, how the ROI is going to come about? Who's going to pay for it? How he's going to pay for it becomes very, very important consideration for putting the information system in the public domain. If it is not a standard compliant, it will be locked by the vendors. And consequently, standard compliance is fundamental need for all the public utilities. And smart cities is no exception to that. No silos of applications. The way you do it in corporates, it is okay because everything is under your control and you build the relationship. The public accountability cannot allow the silos by the vendors and silos by the applications. It has to be regulatable and involving the Indian startups for having the creativity and evolution. So the new technological trends, whenever they emerge, it goes through a progression. That progression is happening much faster now. You have technological progression which has to be also, when it goes in public domain, there has to be fair play regulation which has to come about. There has to be implication, monitoring and control for the societal responsibility. Consequently, it is very important for all of us to understand that the infrastructure that is going to be put has to be standard compliant, where we know what is going on at all the times. And 1M2M is very, very significant single standard which is emerging globally, has been adopted by many players. We'll hear about that. Lastly, Indian solution for Indian problems. You will see we will launch a product called PDO by Honorable Minister late in the evening, and I would urge all of you not to miss that opportunity, where we will talk about what are the Indian solutions and which are actually also applicable somewhere else, but essential in India. The highlight of the conference, let me come to the conference now. The standards in the smart city is the first session. In the chair, we are expecting Mr. Kalsi, who is very IT savvy, secretary, who was in central government in MHA, and now he's gone to Punjab government and chief secretary. Then we'll have introduction to M2M will be done by the chair of the 1M2M. Smart cities in Korea will be presented by Song Myung Jong from KT. We will have need for the smart service layer by Sri Arindam Bhattacharya of CDOT. We also Indian smart cities by Bipin P. Kumar from Gaia. Then second session is cities talk, where the people from cities, which will be chaired by our respected Sri N. Sivasailam, Additional Secretary DOT, and the presentations will be made by Smart City of Bordu, maybe on the video conferencing, and Smart City India, Surat by Sri Nagarajan, Chandigarh Smart City by Sri Amit Talwar, and we'll have Italy, Mr. Roberto Govazzi, Telecom Italia. Then there'll be another session which will be a panel discussion, and panel discussion will be involving people like wireless advisor Mr. V.V. Singh, Sri Narendra Nath, DDG Security, Mago Dor from ETSI, and Mr. M. Nagarajan, if he stays, then he will be in that panel. Also we have Mr. T.V. Ramachandran, who is extremely knowledgeable. I call him Bhishma Pitama of mobile networks, because he began that and he is still fighting and continuing. The policy and regulation, Rajiv Sinhaji, DDG NT. Also M2M communications by TEC, Mr. Sushil Kumar. All of these are going to make it very interesting panel discussion. Subsequent to that, we will have a visit to exhibition and a tea break for about 15 minutes, because there are exhibits outside. And Honorable Minister is going to come from Ahmedabad, and consequently there might be a bit of a delay but in coming here, but he is going to be here. Valedictory session will be by Honorable Sri Manoj Sinhaji, Minister of Communication, and there will be a product launch of PDO, which is actually Wi-Fi based internet on the pushcart. So every home, like how you get your milk, you will get the broadband internet. And then we will, after the launch, we will thank Honorable Minister. That's the program for the day. Thank you very much, and I want to thank the young and the rural people of India who are driving us to innovate. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are also graced by the esteemed presence of Mr. Babu Narayanan KJ, who is serving as the Vice Chairman, TSTSI. He is working as Chief Technologist, Center of Excellence in Wireless Technology, CEWIT, a premier wireless R&D organization at Chennai, India. An MTech from IIT Kanpur, he has over 26 years of R&D experience in telecommunications. At CEWIT, Mr. Babu has been involved in research, technology development, and standardization. He has been deeply involved in the projects taken up by CEWIT, including the one of evaluation of IMT advanced technologies in 2009 and 10. He was the coordinator of the Broadband Wireless Consortium of India, BWCI, a collaborative technology platform created by academia and industry for broadband wireless activities in India from 2009 to 2014. Mr. Babu has been helping TSTSI right since its inception. The Governing Council decided to appoint Mr. Babu as Honorary Executive Director Standards, TSTSI, in its meeting on 17th August 2016. Mr. Babu is representing TSTSI in IMT 2020 meetings of ITUR and has contributed to the working procedures document of TSTSI in the past. Sir, may I please request you to address us on the introduction to TSTSI.
So good morning to all. I'll give a brief introduction to TSDSI and also try to look at how, as an organization, as a telecom STO from India, we can facilitate what we planned for this workshop, that is a standards-driven approach for smart cities. I think many of you are aware of TSDSI. It's now 3 years old, fairly young looking at that, but has made its impact, and it's doing significant work in standardization in India. It is a collaborative effort by the government, industry, and academia with almost equal kind of share, which is something which is perhaps unique to such an organization across the globe. It's also the officially recognized telecom STO from India. If you look at the major objectives, it's not listing the whole objectives, major objectives, it is primarily formed to look at standardization requirements for India across various sectors covering the telecom requirements. In fact, there was no telecom STO in India before that. We had several organizations trying to do similar role, but TSDSI is the first such venture which has been kind of triggered by the earlier organizations, but now it became the accepted telecom STO in India, where from the government requirements, from the market requirements, from all the telecom requirements that comes across various domains, they are looked at by TSDSI and looking at the standardization aspects of the market requirements. But at the same time, it's very important, as you all know, telecom is global, standards are global, and it's extremely important that any organization which is an SDO has to align with the global perspectives and the global trends. So in that fashion, to that objective, TSDSA has a lot of agreements, a lot of arrangements made with the global organization, which I'll come to in the subsequent slide. But that's another objective of TSDSI, that we align with the global perspective of this field. And again, we have been talking about this for quite some time, that telecom imports is huge, and there is a need to have a local industry, an ecosystem developed within India. It has been a weakness in a way for the last perhaps couple of decades. So we think that TSDS as a platform can enable generation of IPs, generation of ideas, solutions, designs for India, from India, which are global in nature. And through that, develop a design manufacturing industry in India, enable such companies who develop in India. They are the major objectives that it is set up for. It has participation from almost the complete gamut of industry, academia, and the government, right from the government departments like DOT, DIT, then the various PSUs, including CDOT. We have all the operators in that. We have the manufacturers, equipment vendors, mobile manufacturers, have the technology companies, service providers, academia, quite a good participant from major technical institutes like IITs, IISc, and CVT is one of the members of, as an R&D unit, one of the members of TSDSI. So you see that it's an excellent participation from a whole range of the stakeholders of telecom in India. So currently we have 40 members, and we intend to grow with more activities towards even like areas like smart cities. As I mentioned, international cooperation is extremely important in this field. Let me highlight the top two ones. One is that TSDSI is an organizational partner of 3GPP. You are aware of 3GPP. It's from the SDOs from US, Europe, you have from HC here. From Europe, then you have from Korea, Japan, China, and now India. So they form the 3GPP, which has quite a significant meaning to it. It's like a collective ownership of the standards by the STOs. So whatever happens in 3GPP is kind of owned by TSDSI too. So we have active participation in the strategy directions that is set in 3GPP. In a similar fashion, we have participation as partner type 1 in 1MTM. There too, it's in a similar fashion that it's the topmost level of partnership, where TSDSI also helps in setting the directions for 1MTM, and also looks at how, as an India requirement and from India perspective, we can put our viewpoints in the global arena. In fact, this is quite important for even the workshop, because the topic that is being talked about here today is quite relevant from the 1MTM point of view. We have, again, partnership and agreements with almost all the major SDOs that is listed here. Then we are also members of the ITU, the key study groups in ITU, ITU-R and ITU-T. We also have engagements and cooperation with HC and EU on the ICT cooperation, and also part of the certification forums agreements. So there is quite a bit of international collaboration that's from the TSDSI point of view, and that keeps us on floating on par with any other SDO in the world. A quick look more to give emphasis on the circled one, which is in the figure here. The structure of TSDSI has the general body, governing council, and so on, but I've only reflected the technical groups just to emphasize that there is work going on in services and MTM-related activities in TSDSI. So the services study group is active. They have done quite a good work more than a year back in terms of collection of various requirements for IoT and MTM, and that has been also given as an input to TEC. There are activities now taken up related to this in the working group, MTM, including looking at transposition of 1MTM standards into for TSDSI. It's an active work that's ongoing now. I think benefits of standardization perhaps is known to all. It has been very much felt in telecom world, without which there is no way to have this kind of a growth that we are seeing in telecom. But can we not have the same in smart cities kind of an area, where we have quite a heterogeneous, diverse set of systems and domains and players? How do we kind of harmonize and make this effective? How much of standardization can help in making it faster deployment, make it much more cost effective, making it vendor independent? Quite a few advantages that standardization brings in. How to bring that is a big question that we need to address in the coming years, I feel. And TSDSI can play a huge role in this. I think I will mention that I think whoever has worked on or looked at smart city application technology would see that right from the networks to the service layer to the applications, there are several areas which are common across domains, which are needed to be exchanged, which are required to be harmonized across. And it's extremely important that they need to be standards to do or to evolve this whole system as a complete one system. So smart cities is one focus area that TSDS is looking at, and we have been starting to contact the government departments in terms of the requirements for standardization from the telecom point of view. What we see is that now we have all the players here. If you look at even smart city as a domain, as a area, we have the government players, extremely important. There are quite a few government departments which are part of smart city. And then we have the whole industry players from network to, again, the applications to service to communication platforms and so on. And we now are looking at, again, a lot of startups coming in this area. So they also need to have the kind of a support. It's a mix of pre-standards level support to the standards for the right development of systems, and then also various issues that come up post-development in terms of interoperability and so on. In all these things, TSDSI can play a huge role, and that's what we are looking at through this. As I said, in the coming years, we intend to focus much more on smart city areas. That's what we see, that TSDSI can play the oiling this wheel in terms of making this move effectively across various the stakeholders of this. That's what we think is important. As a stakeholder of smart city area that sitting in front of me, I request all of you to, I request that anybody who is looking at standards in telecom related to this can contact TSDSI. We have the secretariat, we have the chairman, vice chairman who are quite intent and director general who are intent on keeping this as the focus area. And any of the requirements that you put up with TSDSI will be taken up and then will be taken as work item in TSDSI. Thank you for the time to you.
Thank you, sir. We are very honored to have in the midst of us Mr. Luis Jorge Romero, Director General, European Telecommunications Standards Institute, ETSI. He has more than 20 years of experience in the telecommunications sector. At ETSI, he initiated a global standardization partnership for machine-to-machine communications and has driven the implementation of the ETSI long-term strategy, an ambitious plan to prepare the institute for the future. Previously, he has held diverse director positions in Spain, Morocco, and Mexico, predominantly with Telefonica. As Global Director for International Roaming and Standards and Director of Innovation and Standards, he oversaw Telefonica's participation in global standardization activities and participated directly in the work of the Next Generation Mobile Networks Alliance and in the GSM Association. Before joining ETSI in July 2011, he held the position of Director General of Innosoft and was also a partner and board member of Madrid-based Enology Ventures. So, may I please request you to tell us more about this India-EU project on ICT collaboration?
So I'm going to try as well with the names. So Honorable Sir Sri Sivasailam, His Excellency Mr. Cesare Onestini, Sri Vipin Tyagi, Sri Babu Narayanan, colleagues and all participants in this workshop, I'm very, very honored to be here today and actually very honored to be part of this huge dialogue that is taking place between the Indian and the EU governments and making it a reality. Because we hear a lot about talks and a lot about people saying and dialogues. And I guess from our perspective, it's so important that we get to action. So I really have to thank again the commitment of course, the EU that has funded this project, but also those who participate in it. So our good colleagues of CDOT, our good colleagues of TSDSI, because we're trying to make of this a reality. And we have gone through, we're talking about standards, we're talking about technology. I think we are fortunate to live in a world where ICT is kind of pervasive. Everything you look at or everywhere you look at, there's something to make it connected today. And it's going to be more in the future. And that's a real opportunity for everyone. So how is it that we're going to make a real case out of all these opportunities? So it's great that through this support that we're getting, we are able to start up a project that's looking at very concrete things. And today, I'm going to focus on one of those things. And today in this workshop, we will focus on one of those things, which is how do we enable this everything connected layer through standards so that we are able to, today we are going to apply this to smart cities, and we'll hear later on some people speaking about how to get the most of this cross-connected standards layer to get a reality out of these smart cities that we've been hearing talking about for decades, I would say now. This is really important. And now we are making it real. And I think that while understanding the relevance of ICT, from time to time, it's also worth remembering that this relevance is there thanks to standards. If you look at everything that is really providing you the means to get connected to the world, there are a myriad of standards behind it. So be from your old pots to up the latest internet application you can think of, nothing of that could actually be possible without standards behind it. And standards behind it, when you talk about ICT, it's not like, well, I have my own standards that help me, produce the right screws for my day-to-day, bricolage. It's a little bit more than that, because at the end of the day, you need to be global. You need to be connected to the world. So whatever you do needs to be useful, needs to be usable all throughout. It doesn't make much sense that we try to now develop our own telephone system because, of course, we talk different languages, so we need a different system, don't we? Well, we got through it. We went over that. And now we understand or take for granted that standards are there and the standards are there to help us. Now, this doesn't come for granted. We give it for granted. This doesn't come for granted. We were hearing before how TSDSI was formed not so long ago, a very young organization who has achieved a lot in its 3 years lifetime, but there's a lot more to achieve. And we are very proud to be able to peer with our colleagues in TSDSI and be able to grow together and build things together. This project is giving us this opportunity, and here's where it's not TSDSI. We shouldn't look at TSDSI as, hey, what are you doing? But it's actually giving our regards back to you and say, hey guys, what are you doing? Because it's basically your contribution to TSDSI that will help TSDSI, that will help India, that will help the world, that will help us out there in Europe to build the world of standards, to get your requirements, to get your needs. I think it's not valid saying, oh no, you know what, this standards thing is something for the experts, it's something for the technicians, it's something for the suppliers, the manufacturers, those guys who have the big labs. These guys are the ones who will come to the standards, provide the products. I think we are aware that this is not working like this anymore. It has not been working like this for a good while, and the fact that you have phones in your pockets today is probably due to many contributions from many people who are not precisely just manufacturers that have contributed to this standardization. And not only in one country, not only in one region, all over the place. The bigger we grow the network, the bigger we grow the community to drive the standards, the more relevant they will be for the marketplace. The more relevant will be for your needs when you're in need of the products. The more you will have, and the more accessible you will have it. Does anybody remember mobile telephony back in 1980s? Does anybody remember what was the price of a mobile phone those days? Did anybody see one those days? Could anybody think, I'm not going to be so, back to the past. Does anybody remember 15, 16 years ago? Good. Have anybody thought of something like, you know, smartphones, the internet in your hands? Do you remember when we were talking about the wireless application protocol? Because we were going to make, you know, the big data explosion by then. Well, all this has been possible because there were standards, there were people out there who were able to contribute to that, but pick on that and innovate and bring new topics to the table, bring new businesses. It's not only technology, it's business. So, guys, the world is there, but it's there if you want to contribute to it. It's very, very important that we all hold this contribution. And this doesn't stop in telco manufacturers or ICT equipment manufacturers, network operators. We are talking about smart cities today. So where are our cities? How are we supposed to know what the requirements of a city are? Well, yeah, of course, yes. Yeah. I forgot we are all engineers and the most clever in the world. Nobody needs to tell us anything, right? Well, actually, we definitely need that these people, and today I'm talking about cities, but I could talk about agriculture, I could be talking about energy, water, whatever you can think of, whatever you want to connect. Wouldn't those who are in those businesses be the best acquainted to tell us what is that they need? How is it that we can work together with these people so that we can actually develop the standards that will suit their needs? It's a great step. We need to go forward. But again, it's up to all of us to succeed. I'm sure our colleagues in TSDSI, ourselves in ETSI, are here to help everybody succeed on that. And we'll keep on pushing on this. And this is what this project, this ICT project that the Commission is gracefully funding, is helping us do. And this is what we're trying to achieve in the coming years that will prolong for a long time, I guess. So with that, I would like to end this little speech and wish all the best for the rest of the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are extremely privileged to have the benign presence of Shri N. Sivasailam, Additional Secretary, Department of Telecommunications, Government of India. He is an officer of the 1985 batch of the Indian Administrative Service allotted to Karnataka cadre. He graduated in Mechanical Engineering from University of Delhi. He did his postgraduate studies at the Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi, and at the London School of Economics in Business Administration, and Social Policy and Planning in Business Administration, and Social Policy and Planning in Developing Countries, respectively. He also has a postgraduate diploma in Intellectual Property Rights Law from the National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. His last assignment in cadre was at the Department of Public Enterprises, Government of Karnataka, where he served in the position of Additional Chief Secretary. He has served in the Departments of Health and Family Welfare and Forest, Ecology and Environment Departments of the Government of Karnataka as Principal Secretary. He has served Bangalore Metro Rail Corporation Limited, the Karnataka State Beverages Corporation Limited, and Rajiv Gandhi Urban Rural Housing Corporation Limited as Managing Director in earlier stints in the cadre, besides serving an assignment as Secretary in the Rural Development and Panchayati Raj Department of the state government. In his earlier stint with the central government, he served as Deputy Secretary in the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions. Presently, he is serving as Additional Secretary Telecom. He has been a member of the national award-winning teams in Panchayati Raj Administration and e-governance applications. Sir, may I please request you for addressing the audience?
Your Excellency Onestini, Mr. Luis, Jorge Romero, colleagues on the dais, Mr. Babu Narayan and Mr. Vipin Tyagi, experts and distinguished visitors of the dais, colleagues and friends from the state government, municipal bodies, for whom this conference and workshop is organized. I welcome you all on behalf of the Department of Telecom, Government of India, and all institutions with which we work. This workshop could not have been could not have come at a better time, especially when a large number of municipal bodies are engaged in developing smart cities. And it's within my knowledge that in all states there is a race towards qualifying for the annual list, and that's been very highly rated among peers and people in the states who figure in those lists. So I see a great sense of pride among all municipal bodies and elected representatives, municipal commissioners, municipal employees who are working, who are trying their best to come into those lists. But subsequent to that, when faced with the concept of developing smart cities, a large number of them face problems. In my address to you, I will not touch on the technical aspects. I mean, there are experts who have already spoken to you, and throughout this workshop today, you will be hearing a lot from them. I'll be looking at, addressing my colleagues on certain mindset issues, because this is a new animal. I mean, dealing with municipal bodies and states is not certainly a thing which is normal for the telecom sector, which is largely in the central sphere. And I would like to sensitize you to some of the issues which in my view are important from the point of view of the municipal bodies. First, the first thing which is essential to understand is the hierarchical differences. I mean, as I see, the telecom guys are on the first side and the municipal guys are at the back. I mean, that sets the hierarchy. And that's a thing which you're going to face throughout. Because most people from the municipal side are sometimes of the level of deputy commissioners who are of the rank of deputy secretaries in Government of India. And all of us know deputy secretaries in Government of India just have fun. I mean, nothing very significant happens at their level. But the situation is materially different in the states. People at that level actually manage the ground. So it's a great, there is a great hierarchical difference, and apart from age and things like that. That's the first thing to note. There are going to be significant, so if the first thing an attempt has to be made is to bridge this hierarchical divide. Most people in the technology front, professors, senior professors, emeritus professors, people with 30 years of experience, they'll be dealing with people hierarchically lower, but functionally much on an equivalent pedestal. So I would first request that this aspect should be borne in mind, and they should be made to feel comfortable. Otherwise, we might have a situation by which we may not be able to get across to them, because the divide could be great, and if not recognized, it could become unbridgeable. The second important thing is, a lot of them at the municipal level, it's very important to recognize that the municipal president or the mayor, in some cases, in larger ones, are all persons who are locally situated. And invariably, to what I understand, they are very successful businessmen locally. Invariably, they meet their Waterloo after their after their stint at municipal president, because they would have achieved nothing. So most of the municipal, it is very essential to ensure that they succeed. I mean, they come with a lot of vision to do something for the city, and once they find that they are not in the system is not receptive, they fall by the wayside, and a whole lot of things happen. We may not be concerned with them, but the local institution suffers because they feel frustrated that they could not achieve anything. So several of them come with a whole lot of enthusiasm, and the municipal, the political administration which is there, they need to be addressed. A third important point is both the municipal, the elected head of the municipal body and the chief executive officer, the municipal commissioners or the chief executive officers, by whatever designations they are called, they are under tremendous pressure. Each municipal chief CEO or the head of the chief executive officer works under 4 bosses, each pulling in different directions. Then there is a local level headed by sometimes even the assistant commissioner or the subdivisional officer. Then there is a collector responsible for all that. Then there is a secretary in the urban development ministry. And there is, in several cases, there is a commissioner or a director of municipal administration at the state level. And they are answerable to all of them for designing things, getting things done on the ground. So a whole lot of support is required for them in order to balance each one has got a different vision, and they are expected to harmonize them. So there is a great, it is very interesting and essential to understand from where our municipal officers come from. And I would request some of our colleagues to actually spend time with them. I mean, we would not be able to last a day in that job. It's a pretty tough one, and I would say that it's a thankless job. And the fact that it is being performed with such elan is a matter of some satisfaction. And we do believe that concepts like smart cities actually adds to improved local administration and also enhances the governance structures at those levels. Now, specifically speaking, what are the needs of the municipal guys, as I would put it, or the municipal teams? Fine. First is standards. I mean, I would essentially request you not to talk to them about your institution. They are just not bothered about what is the layer of institutions, whether there is multiple layers in development. They are interested in standards, because fundamentally they are an executing body. They don't care a damn whether there is multiple layers and how it is developed. That's not their concern. You just give them a standard and they will work. If not, they will go to that what they think is as a standard. So there is a great deal of focused approach which is required. They don't need to know how you develop them. It's a black box. They know about it. They are not going to do. They are its users, and they need to know what is inside this black box. They don't know. They don't need to know the details as much as they need to know its application, and some of the basic aspects as to whether it is upscalable, whether it's not upscalable, whether it is upscalable later, or whether it is amenable or amendable later, and all those aspects, so that they would be able to tell them at the local level that this is what we have at present. Another thing where they require great deal of support is designs. Now, most of the municipalities, I mean, you can't expect them to have people of the capability which we have in the front at the municipal level. It's not possible. But they do have certain, hold over certain institutions locally. My advice to this forum is please follow what the PMGSY and the NHAI did for development of roads. they empanel local institutions to prepare their designs for them, local educational engineering college institutions to prepare designs for them, and kept about 7 or 8 apex institutions where those institutions which prepare designs can go and get it vetted. Some of them, as I know in Karnataka, was the Indian Institute of Science, NIT Surathkal, and a few other, I think later on BVB College of Engineering, RV College, and all came into the picture. So getting local level support is the key. And planting this smart city initiative designs at the local engineering colleges is an extremely cost-effective measure, because in several cases the costs are so low because they stay local. They are not charged like companies charge them, because they are local and they are also in the process of learning. They treat it as some sort of a support to the local thing, and for a local institution it is a matter of prestige that they are working in this smart city initiative. So I would strongly suggest that one of the things which could be a takeaway, please involve the local engineering colleges, like what's happening. Most of you are aware of what's happening on the road sector. The local engineering college is very much involved in this. So follow them on that smart, for design of your smart city, or the smart city layout. I wouldn't say design of smart cities, it's too big a term. I will say for the design of the infrastructure requirements of your specific project. So that will be a more focused way of doing it. And then put in place higher level institutions where a peer interaction could take place for checking, which could also be local or semi-local, or maybe in nearby areas, so that they have some sort of assurance on implementation that this has been done by a technically competent body. Even there, one of the important aspects of it is what is going, when a technical institution takes it up, what is going to be the starting standards? There should be certain basic standards which should be given to them, and I'm hopeful that in the course of this workshop, CDOT, which has taken the initiative, will be able to give them some standards on which they should work. But it is also possible that on certain initiatives which they want as an innovation applied locally or sublocally, or in a particular thing, there might be certain innovations which are required. There should be scope for institutions to consider those innovations and see how best it is to be put on what I would call on the roadmap to standards, if at all it is relevant. But the key, the next key element comes about standard, about equipments which they should procure. This is where the municipal authorities, or for that matter, any persons at those levels face the problem. Now, I mean, they just don't know what these whole equipments are. They just go and buy it, and then they land in trouble. So it should be very, very clear. A support structure may be suggested through CDOT or local institutions, or even local engineering colleges which can be supported by CDOT or CEVIT and other institutions, should be able to tell them that these are the equipments which will address these standards. That's because ultimately they are concerned with the tendering process. That's the one which comes into the public domain. Now at that public domain, several of them go wrong because they just are shooting in the dark. So you need to convert those standard design parameters into equipment-related, procurement-related issues, because that's what they look at. That's what is the thing which enters at the cutting edge. So you need to get those standards into standards for equipment, so that which makes sense to them in a procurement-related issue. Most of the thing which, to the best of my knowledge, standard city fellows are stuck in procurement, even today. And that's a big bane, because they have no knowledge, and they cannot be expected to have the knowledge of the type of knowledge which smart cities require. I mean, we are talking on the dais here with people who have spent a lifetime in smart cities. Here, in administration, I mean, they are moving in the same way. In 30 minutes, they are moving 20 subjects. That's the level of operations, the nature of their jobs. They are cross-cutting between various jobs at the same time. So there is a big issue on support structure, the nature of support. The nature of support should convert the standard net format or design format in to support them to get that equipment specifications, that this equipments will do their job. And whatever may be their limitations, this equipment may be, as I mentioned it earlier, you can specify, yes, this equipment, it is cheaper, but it is not scalable. This equipment is a little costlier, but it is scalable. Now people can then decide whether they would like to have it, or if a next equipment is going to come up after 5 years, they might as well say, I don't want scalable ones, I'll use a non-scalable one, and then write the technology later. Those are all decisions which can locally, enough people are there to advise them on the nature. But giving them a bouquet of what standard designs can do to support standard equipment procurement is what is their key requirement. There is a third aspect to it. Unlike in certain areas, in this smart cities business, the two key areas in which municipals will be, the project implementation per se, apart from procurement, doesn't appear to be too much of a problem. It's electronic-based projects are very simple to implement. But the issues come prior to it in the designs and specs and procurement and O&M. O&M standards need to be known to them, because that would invariably be part of the contract. And either as part of the contract for installation or part of the contract for subsequently as for routine maintenance. The O&M is particularly important in a smart city concept, because if you put, let us take a traffic example. I mean, if you put that equipment and the traffic doesn't work at the peak hour, then it is of no use. So you do require a certain amount of operation and maintenance support capability, which needs to be organized. The beauty about doing all this is simple. The entire smart city, I believe that if you are able to organize this, you have substantial employment creation at the local level. O&M requires local level people to operate. Your local specs will ensure local manufacture. I'm not telling that it should be Indian make for only India. It can be Indian make for the world, or startups can make, startups from abroad can collaborate with India and make in India for the world, for India as well. So a whole lot of merit possibilities exist. But those possibilities arise only if the local base of implementation is strengthened. Now, if the implementers at the local level, particularly the municipal commissioners and the municipal presidents elected, do not feel confident about this, they are not going to take it forward. They would be happy. There will be something what is called a tenure management principle. The municipal commissioner will be happy to get his city in the list, annual list, because that does not require any smart city application. Then he will get it in the list and leave it for his successor to face the music. There will be tenure management. So that's what is happening. That's what is happening. If you look at it, several municipal commissioners who have got the smart cities to their state, to their municipal are no longer in position, and have gone away with the credit, leaving the baby with the successor who is struggling with it. So this becomes a bane. I mean, this is very interesting. I mean, these are all aspects which you should understand to know. I mean, why certain things which appear so normal to you is so abnormal on the ground. This is the reason. People have taken the credit for having started the smart city, but not having ended it. Nobody wants to have the successor is with the baby, not knowing what to do. Groping in the dark and looking to seminars like ours to see whether they can get something out of it. So we should not disappoint them on those grounds. I thought I have taken a lot, tried to be as non-technical as possible, and use this forum to sensitize my colleagues in the communication business to certain aspects of working in states, which I thought is my unique experience in this gathering. Thanks a lot for hearing me out.
Thank you, sir. We are very privileged to have in the midst of us His Excellency Mr. Cesare Onestini, who is the Deputy Head of the European Union delegation to India since August 2014. Mr. Cesare joined the European Commission in 1995. As a European official, Mr. Cesare has worked on a variety of policies, including the promotion of European cooperation in the areas of education and professional training, the development of European transport networks, and liberalization of gas and energy markets. Before joining the Commission, Mr. Cesare graduated from Oxford University with a BA in Human Sciences, an MPhil in European Politics, Economics and Society, and a DPhil in International Relations. More recently, Mr. Cesare has worked for the European Union in the areas of external relations, international trade, security, and crisis management. From 2008 to 2010, he worked at EU delegation to the United Nations in New York, focusing on cooperation between the European Union and the United Nations on peace and security issues. In 2010, he returned to Brussels for the setting up of the European External Action Service, the diplomatic service of the European Union. In the EEAS, he took over the position of the head of the Corporate Board Secretariat. For the 2013 and 14 academic session, Mr. Cesare was the European Union Visiting Fellow at the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy at the National University of Singapore, focusing his research and teaching on EU-ASEAN relations. Sir, may I please request you to tell us more about this India-EU cooperation?
Thank you for that detailed presentation. Additional Secretary Savasalam, Director General Romero, Executive Director Tyagi, and Vice Chairman Narayan. It's really a pleasure for me to be here and to address all of you and welcome to this event. It is 3 years I've been based here in Delhi, and it is rare in a diplomat's life to see a project actually grow from year to year and gather strength. So it's a pleasure for me to be back and again greet the next phase, opening up, as Additional Secretary just so eloquently defined, new possibilities of cooperation between two areas of great priorities, between what we do on ICTs and standards and what we do in urban and smart cities. These are two areas which, when Prime Minister Modi came to Brussels a year ago for the EU-India summit, were clearly identified as two areas of priorities for work between the EU and India. And what you're doing here today is really bringing them together in the framework of our bilateral relations, but more broadly in the framework of the international work that you do on standards. Allow me also to start by bringing you a word of welcome from our ambassador, Tomasz Kozlowski, here in Delhi. He's a very keen supporter of this project, and at the moment he is with our High Representative for Foreign Policy, Madame Mogherini, who's visiting India, and at the moment, at 11 o'clock right now, they are starting a meeting with Foreign Minister Swaraj, and I will join them later. They'll be happy to hear that projects like this are really giving substance to EU-India cooperation. I'd also like to thank CDOT for organizing and supporting this project. I'm getting used to Indian hospitality, but even by those standards, this is a magnificent work you have done. So very much thanks for all of this and for all the work you have put into this. And also thanks, obviously, to TSDSI and ETSI and Additional Secretary for all the support you're doing. Over the coming year, and I will not be too long because a lot of experts have already spoken, but the Internet of Things and M2M communications will gain an increasingly important impact on both economics and the quality of our life. And the question is therefore of how to make these developments interoperable, how to make sure that as we move in the smart cities, we bring together the reflection on the standards. And here in India, with the big drive, the big momentum on smart cities, I think this is a perfect moment to look at this issue. Why standards? Well, standards because consumers may find the smart devices do not work seamlessly across borders and manufacturers would face major obstacles. So it's both for economics and for everyday life. We need to look at standards in these ways. Ease of management of our smart cities would be very much limited if we don't start the thinking on smart cities accompanying it with the thinking about interoperability. We might be developing very smart solutions, but if they stay in their silos, if you have a very smart solution for transport, but it does not communicate with the rest of your solutions, then you have a problem. And we know that retrofitting these solutions is even more expensive than thinking it through at the beginning. So that's what we are really trying to do now. The cooperation that TSDSI and ETSI have put in place is something that offers an example of how we want to take this forward. We look at standards from the European perspective as an open process, a process with open participation, a process that brings together different actors and components. The regulators are at the core of this work, and then we have research and we have all sorts of other elements that have to come together. One M2M develops a platform architecture comprising applications, services, networks. It brings really everything together. And the idea is that even if it sounds complex, the idea is, in fact, to get to something quite simple, something that works, something that's intuitive, something that people can have in their pocket or that administrators can run without having to take PhD degrees to understand what they're doing. So the idea is that to really have this reflection to get to that level of simple operations and monitoring. And that's why the EU is very happy. The European Union is very happy to support this work. We have done it in different ways. We started by co-funding European standardization experts in India, Mr. Dinesh Sharma, under the CSAA project, and he provides really valuable information and support. Complementary to this work, we have launched and we really fund the second project supporting cooperation between TSDSI and ETSI. This project has already given some very good results in the first phase between 2015 and 2016. And we have seen a good participation from industry, academia, government bodies, all of them really joining forces and agreeing priority areas for cooperation in a number of areas, such as intelligent transport, 5G, computer control, future networks, security. As we know, security is such an important cross-cutting theme. We cannot move forward without keeping this in mind. But the project provides a wide range of support, and I think the meetings and events today is one such example of what the project can do, and provide the platform for sharing of ideas, for developing new ideas. And I think the speakers before me have already put a lot of such ideas in your minds, and I'm sure the rest of the day will be a good opportunity to develop these further. Allow me just to say a couple of words on how this project is developing in the next few months. The project has launched monthly webinars for interested experts via ETSI and TSDSI. So it becomes an opportunity to cover specific standardization-related topics in priority areas of cooperation. We also have started providing travel support for experts to attend standardization meetings or trainings, face-to-face meetings, and being able to share and discuss, like today, all together, remains an important component of this. We have supported a 5G testbed event in March at ITT Madras. The stakeholders involved in the project are also planning to organize a hackathon it's very popular now in India to have hackathons. I think, you know, we should not miss that train. And we know that Prime Minister also is very keen. So on 10 and 11 June, we'll organize a tutorial and Developers Day at the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore, combining theory and practice. So as you can see, the calendar is long. After the tutorial, current and future actors of the M2M world can experience hands-on encounter. And later in the second half of this year, we will organize a hackathon inviting startups, innovative academicians, and we'd like to really develop one M2M applications based on the one M2M platform. So the focus of the hackathon will really be on this development, showcasing latest performance, latest platforms release, and help raise awareness about its benefits. And I know that here in the campus there are some good examples and ideas already of this. In this context, let me just say that the European Union is also not just simply supporting cooperation on these areas, but also we have been working on urban issues for many years with Indian counterparts. We have had, for example, a partnership with Mumbai for a number of years. With Mumbai First, we established it in 2013, so it's a number of years we work with them. We are promoting twinning between European and Indian cities, so there could be some synergies there through the World Cities project, so there can be exchanges then of experiences and models through these other projects. We also have a cooperation with 5 cities supporting low-carbon strategy into urban development. So all of these elements combine, and we have more ideas for how we can increase the support that we give to urban and the efforts of India to promote smart cities. So I think when we will have the next EU-India summit, that's going to be after the summer here in Delhi, with Prime Minister Modi hosting the European leaders, I'm sure that such issues of urbanization, interoperability, and all of that will feature very much on that agenda, and therefore the thinking that you developed today is also important. And then here in Delhi, we just opened last month an office of the European Investment Bank, the EU Bank. It's a big, it's in fact the biggest multilateral lending bank in the world, and they're really stepping up their lending in India. They now have a portfolio of about 1.5 billion euros. Their focus is on climate action related issues, but as we know, many of the sustainability actions we're talking about are very much having an impact on climate action, and the new colleagues here in Delhi will be delighted to work with urban authorities and with the government of India to continue promoting this work. And lastly, a word on research, because a lot of what we do is underpinned by research programs. The EU has one of the largest research programs, Horizon 2020, and this program is very much open to cooperation and participation. And India is a valuable partner in this work, and I think in the years to come there is very much space to grow and strengthen this cooperation in the research area between the European Union and India. So let me just conclude by stressing once again how much we on the European Union side are committed to cooperation with India on standardization in this area, and very much the focus on smart cities is one that we welcome, and we congratulate the organizer for working on this area. And I'll be, for one, very interested in learning more about the deliberations of your day-to-day and the suggestions that you'll have for us and for what we can do better and more of in our cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Mr. Vipin Tyagi, Executive Director, CDOT, to present a token of thanks and gratitude to His Excellency Mr. Cesare Onestini, Deputy Head of Delegation of European Union to India. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in felicitating Shri N. Sivasailam, Additional Secretary Department of Telecommunications, Government of India. Mr. Luis Jorge Romero, Director General, European Telecommunications Standards Institute, ETSI. Mr. Babu Narayanan, Vice Chairman, TSTSI. May I now request Mr. N. Sivasailam, Additional Secretary, Department of Telecommunications, Government of India, to felicitate Mr. Vipin Tyagi, Executive Director, CDOT. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We shall now have a short tea break for approximately 20 minutes and shall reassemble at the same place for the first session of the workshop. Our coordinators shall be guiding you to the designated areas for tea. Thank you.